Okay, if you were to take a black and white monster or horror film from back in the day and remake it in color, a la Night of the Living Dead 1990, what movie and who would you get to direct it?
Hmm. I think I would do Carnival of Souls with Ari Aster. Aster, is that how you say his last name?
I
I
think
assume
so, yeah.
You got the ass part right.
Got him. That's who I would go with. I think that would be really interesting because it's already a very artsy horror movie, especially for the time. So to see what his mind could bring to it, I think would be awesome.
Okay, that's actually not too bad. I can actually probably see that.
Yeah, that'd be really interesting. I wonder, Garrett, have you seen the original Carnival of Souls?
Yeah, I've actually seen Carnival of Souls.
I wonder if Ari Aster or Aster or Uaster, if he would ruin that movie for you, or if he would just like put in way too many symbolic imagery or something like that, or I wonder if it would like change the movie entirely.
There's a lot of symbolic imagery in the first one. So, I mean, I don't think it'd be too far of a leap. I think what we'd run into is like trying to make it visually artistic. Like, how much time would he spend on that? But at the same time, though, if you remember, there's a lot of scenes in that movie where she's just walking around like the Utah salt flats, and there's a lot of her like walking around that fucking abandoned amusement park. So, I think he'd do a good job with it. I don't know if I'd particularly love it, but I mean, I think he'd do a fine job with it.
Yeah, it's already a kind of slow movie, so I think he would do really well. And I think it could stand for a little bit more cinematography, especially how the genre of filmmaking has evolved in the last 30 or 40, Jesus, 50 years. This movie's old.
You're old.
Yeah, I am old. But has this movie, have how movie making has evolved? It would be interesting to see if there would be like a different take on that. I would love to see that actually.
Yeah, I like that. That's actually a really good answer.
Now, are you guys aware that this movie was remade in 1998?
No.
That means it's good. If you don't know it exists, yeah, I haven't seen it myself, but I just checked it out, and there's one that came out in '98 that says Wes Craven presents Carnival of Souls, directed by Larry Miller.
Wow, Larry Miller.
Yeah, I wonder how that turned out.
I mean, it sounds like someone's got a homework project, John.
I feel like whenever it's more famous person presents, that is a bad sign.
Yes.
It very rarely ends well.
Yeah, absolutely. The fact that none of us have heard of this remake and it was presented by somebody else, it's a completely forgotten remake. I'm sure it's going to be a 5-star movie.
Mark, did you look at the poster for this film?
Is it the one with the balloons and the people's faces in the balloons?
Yeah. Oh, I'm already scared. It's also only 85 minutes long.
Ooh, that's not a good sign.
Lots of strikes against this movie.
One of us should watch it, or all of us should watch it. I don't know. We'll have to figure this out off air.
Yeah.
I decided to go a little different route with it. I've been watching a lot of Godzilla movies, as you know, and I would like to see maybe some of the more creature features or the giant monster kaiju movies remade that we haven't seen in a while. One that I grew up watching with my dad was called Beginning of the End from 1957. I don't know if you guys are familiar with this one. It's when giant grasshoppers attack a metropolitan area. So they are scaling the buildings and just eating the bricks and mortar, and it's just, one of those classic matinee style films, like maybe like The Deadly Menace or something like that, but it's a bunch of grasshoppers. I would love to see an updated take on some of those more ham-fisted monster movies. There's also another one called Space Amoeba in 1970. That's it's going to be one of them Toho picture type movies. It's about a giant squid that comes from outer space. And then if I wanted to see something more in the line of the Godzilla universe, I'd love to see Rodan get a standalone movie. He was one of the best parts of Godzilla King of Monsters that came out a year or two ago. So I would just absolutely love to see more of that giant bird pterodactyl monster on screen.
I've actually seen all three of those, and let me tell you, they are good. I really enjoy those movies. Who would you get to direct The Beginning of the End?
So that's a good question. I don't know. So it's like, who is kind of doing that style of movie? So the guy that did King of Monsters, Michael Dougherty, I think he did a pretty competent job on that last Godzilla. I think I liked it more than the original 2014 reboot. So somebody like him, but if we're looking for some kind of like obvious fit-in movie, I don't know who in Hollywood would make that. And I definitely don't want somebody like Mr. Transformers, Michael Bay. I would not like that route. So, do you guys have any suggestions on directors?
Yeah. Roland Emmerich.
That would be interesting. I'd like to see what happens with that.
Give that man a monster movie. Let him get to work.
Maybe one of the lesser known ones. Like I could see him do the giant grasshopper one, beginning of the end. I don't think I'd hand that man Rodan. But he has done so many of those end of the world apocalyptic style. What is it?
2012.
Yeah, all that shit.
Independence Day. He knows how to shoot a epic film.
Yeah. Okay, we'll get him for that one, and then we'll let Michael Dougherty do a Rodan movie, and then maybe we'll just give it to someone in Toho to be like, please make Space Amoeba. Who doesn't need squids from space attacking Earth? You know what I'm saying? All right, what do you got, Garrett? What'd you come up with?
So I thought about long and hard about this because, as you guys know, I want a very good werewolf movie, and we've had some good ones throughout time. American Werewolf in London. We had The Howling. I almost call it The Wolfening, but it's The Howling. But to be honest, if I'm thinking about a black and white old like horror monster movie that I'd like to like see redone with a modern person's take, I want it to be visually unique. I want it to be kind of like, John, like you had Ari Aster in mind for Carnival of Souls. Like, he'll bring a very unique vision to that film. I want to see Rob Zombie do Haxan.
Ooh.
Oh, shit.
The visuals and everything in that is just right for his like music video style craziness. Like think House of a Thousand think less Devil's Rejects and Three from Hell and more House of a Thousand Corpses, but with Haxan, I think he could do a dope ass interpretation of that. I would love to see that. I think that would be next level, and like let him do some music for it and stuff like that. Bam, that's what I want.
Now, if our listeners are not familiar with Haxan, that is a silent film from 1922 made in Sweden, all about the wiles and the ways that the demons will trick your women into becoming witches. It's really, really fun to watch. Just knowing that this movie is almost 100 years old at this point. Now, Garrett, are you going to make Rob Zombie, is he going to do a silent version of his own, or are you going to add dialogue? Like, what are you thinking?
I don't want to step on the toes of a creative person because, when you have a vision, you just have to go for it. I think I would leave that up to him. I personally would probably enjoy a silent version of it, just music. I mean, he can have lyrics in the music and stuff like that, but I think like a long ass music video would be awesome. But, if he wants to put some dialogue in there, I feel like he could do it right. I don't think he'd burden it down too much with a bunch of like excess plot that's not necessary.
I think you might run the risk of having to feel like a modern movie structure on this old movie that was more of like a beware, more. It was almost like a public service announcement against witchcraft, right? There's no central character in Haxan. It's just a lot of vignettes of like them flipping through this devil book, and then the scenes kind of play out. So yeah, there's a lot that could be done there, but I kind of would not like it if there was like, this is Jill, she's gonna turn into the witch in this movie or something like that.
Maybe it could be like an anthology movie with a different director, doing a different vignette.
Yeah, let a bunch of different like awesome like Spike Jonze, let a bunch of like badass like music video directors just take a crack at like each section of Haxan and just do it as like an anthology kind of like PSA, if you will.
Oh, that'd be rad, man. We could get David Fincher in there too. He used to do music videos before he went off and did Alien 3.
Oh yeah, we got like Chris Cunningham who did all the fucking Apex Twin videos and shit like that. Dude, could you imagine his section? Fucking get out of here.
You know who else did music videos? Michael Bay. Get him in here.
You know what? I was thinking about when you said Michael Bay earlier, and I was like, I would love to see the beginning of the end done by Michael Bay, because then we could get Joe the mute and the big like tough guy to be like bad boys and take on the giant grasshoppers.
All right, yeah. Okay, I think we've come up with some really good ideas here. We're going to kickstart these. We're going to put up an Indiegogo fund. Somebody at Rob Zombie, let us know if he is interested, and we will get on these projects. And Giant Grasshoppers and Haxan is coming soon to a podcast theater near you.
I bet Haxan's public domain, so really we don't even have to buy rights.
All right.
One hurdle down.
Good point.
One step forward. Who's going to take 2 steps back?
Hey, all you creatures from cyberspace. Thanks for joining us on another episode of the GraveTalk podcast. My name is Mark. Again, joined with Garrett and John. Fellas, we're back for another episode this week. How we doing?
Pretty good.
Not too bad. I mean, what's the point in complaining?
I'm tired of complaining. Let's talk about some stuff to get our minds off whatever we got going on normally. What have we been up to since last time? We watch anything we want to bring up, warn the public about, put praises on, shine a spotlight, call the cops on, arrest any directors? What are you thinking?
Wow, that's a really high bar, Mark. I don't know if I can reach that.
Well, stand on your tippy toes and try.
I want to shine a spotlight on Mark's half-drunk last drive-in live tweets. Those are fantastic.
I agree.
Okay, yeah, you liking those?
Every week I turn it on and I'm all like, I never know what movies they're doing, and I can just always like read the context clues and your tweets, and I was like, ooh, they're doing Exorcist 3 this week. That's nice.
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun. The last drive-in community on Twitter is a place that you can go on Friday nights, have some drinks and watch a movie and just kind of watch people's reactions. We're kind of at the point now where I've seen half of what they're showing. So it's kind of like, oh, I can just chill back and pay more attention to Twitter this round. And then, he'll show one that I've never heard of, like Deadbeat by Dawn was one they did last night from like 1988. I'm like, I've never heard of this movie before, but it's basically if you mixed Escape 2000 with Street Trash. And it's just like this low budget guerrilla style filmmaking movie that was made in the 80s New York. They're throwing bodies into the streets with live moving cars. They didn't get permits to do any of this stuff. So it's fun to get context to these films with Joe Bob, and then you're watching, you're like, this is a really bad movie, but man, some of this stuff is pretty neat. So it's always a good time. I encourage anybody who likes horror movies to tune in on Shudder Friday nights, get some context on these movies, listen to a long Joe Bob rant, and enjoy a film you might not have heard of before. And I'll be there.
What was that one they did the other day that, oh God, it was fucking bizarre. Like, so many people had a problem with it.
You're probably referring to Blood-Sucking Freaks.
Yes, Blood-Sucking Freaks, which I had heard about and I'd never seen, but oh my God. Like, people on Twitter were going ape shit over that movie. It was like so polarized. Like, I have some friends that were like, this is disgusting trash. And some people were like, okay, I don't know what the fuck this is, but I got to keep watching. I was like, it's just interesting some of the movies they pick because it really just kind of like, it hits on all sides of that spectrum.
Yeah, most definitely. Blood-Sucking Freaks was a freaking freak show, as the title suggests, man, from 1976. Like, I didn't know they could get that lewd and disgusting in the 70s. He's like, oh, it's probably morality tale. The Christians are controlling everything. Well, people were still making these crazy movies back then. So yeah, that's a good one to highlight. Just like what is out there, what is Joe Bob going to drudge up this week and have us check out? If you haven't seen Blood-Sucking Freaks, go into it expecting something a little more raunchy than, I don't know, if they could make this movie today is what I'm trying to say.
Raunchy is a certain term for it. I would say almost disgusting. Like, it's not just like gore, just like, I don't know. That movie made me really uncomfortable.
I kind of like it, but I'm also appalled by it at the same time. It's a really strange feeling to have on a movie.
I don't want to watch this, but I can't look away.
Right, exactly. Well, John, you got anything to bring up?
Let's see. Well, if folks are following my letterbox, they'll know I've watched dozens of movies recently, but I want to highlight two, shine a spotlight, whatever we're doing. I watched Let's Scare Jessica to Death from 1971. Very interesting movie. I'd recommend that one. It was kind of trippy. Nothing at all like the movie y'all were just discussing.
That seems accurate.
But a very kind of trippy, like mindfuck almost. It's a good one. Better than I expected it to be.
Now, did that one get a remake recently?
That sounds familiar. I don't know if it has, but that name sounds familiar. So I feel like it had to popped up recently in some kind of like media.
Okay, maybe it just kind of came, yeah, like you're saying, popped up in people's consciousnesses online, because I had been seeing that name quite a bit recently, and I was like, is that a new one? I don't know what that is.
I think it just popped up on some streaming service. I feel like that's how it came to the forefront relatively recently. I don't think there was a remake, but I'm not sure. And then, per tradition, I watched an exorcism movie. This one was called The Ascent from 2019. And it was actually decent. I liked it. Had a twist, which I did not see coming. It is much better than the general exorcism movies that are out there these days. So if you're into,
He was an atheist the whole time.
it has a very creepy poster, which has absolutely nothing to do with the movie. So that was a disappointment. But the poster, it is terrifying, and it makes me so uncomfortable to look at.
So the poster looks like it's kind of like a relief or something that has holes on like inside a man's head, and then there's fingers coming from out of his head
Yeah.
with the upside down Satan cross. Yeah, that's weird looking.
Yeah, it makes me so uncomfortable to look at. Just, what's it, trypophobia or whatever, where you're afraid of holes. I think it brings that up. It's very uncomfortable. But decent movie. I'd recommend it.
Well, let's get into today's movie. We're going to be talking about a remake of one of the original modern zombie films, Night of the Living Dead. This one was done in 1990, directed by Tom Savini. This one, I spent almost the majority of my life not knowing it existed. What about you guys? I didn't even know this movie was made until maybe 2 or 3 years ago.
Wow.
Same. I also didn't know this movie existed until Garrett said we should do it for the podcast. So I don't know, what was that, 6 months ago or so?
About that, yeah.
It's like, oh, all right, cool.
Now, Garrett, why did you want to do this one in particular instead of the original?
So I love the original, and I grew up I wouldn't say grew up like when I was a young kid, but like I saw it pretty early on, and Night of the Living Dead always fascinated me because just people at their base level always just like is really intriguing to me. And I thought that movie for its time, and, it took me a while to kind of figure this all out, but, with subsequent watches, it really is a great expose of like how people react and how people truly are and their natures and stuff like that. And I wanted to do it on the podcast because we've done some other zombie films, but 28 Days Later is its own very unique thing. Girl with All the Gifts, a very unique thing. We hadn't really done any kind of like just standard in the middle of the road genre zombie films. This is a movie that not a lot of people have heard about, kind of like you guys experienced. It's something that you may be slightly aware of, but a lot of people haven't actually seen it because they did colorize the original one at some point, and they were releasing that. And I think a lot of people assumed these were the same things, but this was, I think, Tom Savini's like first directorial debut. It's got Tony Todd in it, as I'm sure you're about to go through the list, but that man just, I don't know why he hasn't won an Oscar. I love Tony Todd so much. But no, I really wanted to do this one because I think it adds something a little more unique to the original. That ending is a little more fleshed out. The messaging is a little bit more on display. And some of the acting in it just really, really just hits home with me. So I don't know. I just kind of wanted to share it because, again, a lot of people I know have just never heard of this or have never seen it. So I just try to get the word out.
We haven't done zombies in a while, and I think probably due to the fact that we collectively are just kind of exhausted with the zombie genre, right? We've said that before. It's not that they're not good movies out there, it's just so many of them, and it's so hard for these things to be original at this point that when they do come around, I'm more likely to pass on them, right? So, yeah, it's been a while. I'm glad we're coming back to one of the zombie movies. I would like to maybe say we should think about doing Dawn of the Dead, either the original or the remake from '06.
Can I ask you why? I mean, I asked that not as like a condescending type question, but like I have never been a fan of Dawn of the Dead. It's enjoyable, but like out of day and night, like Dawn is always the third rank for me. And so I'm just curious, like everyone loves Dawn of the Dead so much. I'm just kind of curious what it is about Dawn that like you're like, yo, we should do Dawn.
Out of the trilogy of movies, I hadn't seen Day of the Dead until we did it for this podcast when we started this thing 2.5 years ago. I'd seen Night of the Living Dead, right? But Dawn of the Dead is the one that I think I saw first. And I like the idea of the struggle humans will have to work together even when they have every resource available to them. Like, in that movie, they go hole up in a mall, right? And they still can't get together even though they are, get their wits about them without having some trouble between each other. And they've got every resource they could need in the mall, a gun shop, food, it's all right there. And it still comes crumbling down around them. On top of the fact that it's the movie that takes place when we see a metropolitan city go to shit by zombie attack. Where Night of the Dead is secluded in the woods, and it happens around one house, and then Day of the Dead, we're past the initial outbreak, and we're at a military base, right? So this one's like right in the shit.
I think I like watching the world collapse, the initial craziness. I'm a big fan of that kind of stuff. If I'm thinking of the right movie, right? Doesn't that open up with the fast zombies killing people in their bedroom?
Yeah, in the remake, yes. That's fair. That's fair. Yeah, I'm always just curious because I mean, I know a lot of people tend to gravitate towards that one because it was the first one they were exposed to. So I was just curious, if there was more to it than that. Because talking to people about like why they like certain movies, because I like some shit movies, so I'm always just curious like why people gravitate towards a certain thing.
Here's a fun fact. I've never seen the original Dawn of the Dead. I've seen the remake like 5 times, but I've never seen the first, like the original.
Oh wow, the feels are totally different. They feel very, very different.
Is it still slow zombies?
Oh yes, yes. It's Romero's zombies tend to. I think through every single one of them, including Land of the Dead, they're all the slow moving zombies. Am I right, Mark?
Yeah, you're right on that.
I'm a fast zombie guy.
Yeah, it wasn't until the remakes that we started seeing like fast zombies to kind of ratchet up the tension and stuff like that, which I don't have a problem with. I just think Dawn, the original Dawn, as opposed to the remake, relies more on kind of like as Mark said, the interactions between the characters and the bigger concepts. As the newer one, while it deals with that stuff, also has the ability to rely on like gore and kind of like actiony scenes and stuff like that we didn't really get in the first one. So
I agree with you on that. All right, well, here's who we got in this one, the 1990 Night of the Living Dead remake. This one is going to be starring, as Garrett mentioned, Tony Todd as Ben, Patricia Tallman as Barbara, Tom Towles as Harry Cooper, McKee Anderson as Halligan Cooper, William Butler as Tom, Katie Finneran as Judy Rose, Bill Moseley as Johnny, and Heather Mazur as Sarah Cooper. All right, here's what the box of the 1993 UK release has to say about this remake. Fun fact, this movie didn't get released in the UK until 1993. For whatever reason, it took 3 years to get across the pond. Take a trip into your worst waking nightmare with Tom Savini as he guides you through his shocking and visceral 90s remake of George A. Romero's horror classic Night of the Living Dead. While visiting the grave of their mother, Barbara and her brother are attacked by a rabid flesh-eating zombie. Barbara manages to escape and reaches the relative safety of a seemingly deserted farmhouse. She is joined shortly by a young drifter, Ben. Trapped inside the farmhouse, they prepare themselves for a nightfall and the massing onslaught of armies of the undead. And then it goes to the box tells us who Tom Savini is and all the work he's done, just to really get you to rent that video. So what do you guys think of Night of the Living Dead? Does it deserve accolades? Does it deserve to exist? Does it do anything better than the original? What do you think?
Yeah, I thought it was fine. I liked, obviously, Tony Todd. I think he definitely carried this movie just on his back, which, good work. That was very impressive. The guy, I know you just said it, of course, I don't know their name, though, who played Cooper. Excellent job, because you definitely come to loathe that man. Really, I think those two were the standouts for me, but I don't know that I would ever watch this movie again. I'm not a slow zombie fan in general, and I don't know. This movie, for me, didn't do anything too special, but for what it did do, I think it did it well.
I kind of liked that we were going back to the slow-moving zombies. I kind of like that it gives the survivors a little more wiggle room to survive and kind of navigate the area. Would you call it the inferior version of the zombie if the fast-moving one's like the alpha that we've come to know with modern cinema in the 2000s? They still can't get their shit together and get working as a team to get through it, right? The only one that seems to do so throughout the film is Barbara. I think this movie's pretty good, and granted, I haven't seen the original in a while. I would watch it again. I don't think I'm quite as cold on that aspect of it as John. I do share some sentiment of it being like, is it too close to the original, though? When this movie came out, Siskel or Roger Ebert, one of those two guys, said, why does this one even exist? Why would you want to dunk on the classic and do it so closely to the original, right? And that's something that we kind of bring up in all of our remake discussions that we've already talked about, is like, what is the point of a remake? Is it to just update it and bring it to an audience? Like, should you be doing something original with it entirely, or what exactly? And I think this movie kind of treads both with its new ending, but then it also does so much that the original does.
That's a great question, but I have to pose, you're a video game guy. I have to pose a counter, point to that of, they remade the Resident Evils almost beat for beat, just with better visuals, and they have sold like gangbusters. That's what the fans wanted. While I do believe remaking something exactly note for note can seem redundant, and if a beautiful classic original exists, like why would you remake it? But why do they remake Ben-Hur all the time? Gladiator and all that stuff. I mean, sure, it's a little different, but you know what I'm saying? Like, they do remakes all the time and things, and people have no problem. But when it comes to movies, people tend to shit on it when they make movies like Batman vs Superman. Everyone's like, oh, it's not like it was in the comic, and people are upset by that. I personally, especially with like my Marvel movies, I'm glad they take a few liberties and make a few changes, but they kind of keep the integrity and the general basis of the story intact. I don't know. I thought this movie did a good enough job on that. My main complaint with this movie is that there are a few scenes that could have definitely been edited down or been 80s montages with like a badass pop song, and I would have been just as happy. Not really, but you know what I'm saying? Like when they're hammering up all the boards and the windows and stuff like that there's a lot of hammering. It's just like at some point I was like, we can cut back on a little of this. But I don't know. I kind of like the fact that it really was beat for beat the same movie, but with a new polish and a new like kind of like custom fin and paint job on it.
I think though one of the differences between like a video game remaster or remake and a movie is when you're hiring new actors and actresses, you're not just polishing it, you're replacing a performance, right? The way that the Tony Todd plays Ben is different than whomever the original actor who played Ben did it. Same for Barbara, right? Like, so I think that's where people get upset, is it's not that they're just going in and upgrading all the special effects. You're essentially erasing the OG performance.
Well, I don't see it as erasing, because in video game remakes, they get new voice actors. I don't see it as erasing though, because the original film doesn't go away. There's plenty of movies that I have remakes of that I will go back and watch the original of instead, just because I know it's a far superior movie. Like they're remaking Scarface. I don't know why, but they're remaking Scarface, which the Al Pacino Scarface was a remake of the like 50s or 60s Scarface. So again, it's like, I don't know. I don't think that's a problem, because the original doesn't go away because of it. I don't know. I mean, that's a good point though.
It's a very strange place to be when it comes to remakes, right? You say it doesn't erase it, and it may be so for someone like of our age who are familiar with the classics, but let's say we fast forward 65 years, and let's say that the remake is all of a sudden more well regarded than the original. What are future generations going to, are they going to go back and seek out the original? Let's say, for example, John Carpenter's The Thing, right? There's a pretty good amount of people right now that aren't, deep into horror like us, that don't know that was originally a movie in the 50s. So what is that going to look like in 60 years time? Is like people are going to say The Thing and be like, yeah, that 1980s one, man. If the remake outshines the original, then what happens to the original, I wonder, in the social consciousness of people, I guess.
But I think that's just the way it is with anything. I mean, how many people remember MySpace? How many kids remember MySpace as opposed to Facebook? I think society and things like that are going to put things in the forefront based off the generation and the accessibility of their media and what's available to them. But it doesn't erase it. I see what you guys are saying. I don't know. I feel like this shouldn't be held against it.
Yeah, and I'm not sitting here on the fence, or one side or the other I'm just kind of posing the question. I was like, what do you guys think exactly? I don't mind that they've remade this movie. I didn't even know it existed until recently. But what was the purpose behind it, I guess? You know what I mean? Like, why did they want to remake it now, or in 1990?
Because it's important to Savini, and maybe he just really, was like, man, this was an amazing flick. And I mean, I don't want to speak for Tom Savini, but like,
that would be really nice. But the reason they remade it is because they forgot to copyright the original one, and George Romero wasn't getting any money. So he wanted to remake it to copyright it and make money. That's why they remade this movie. At least
Okay, well then, right on. I mean, that's cool. I mean,
I respect that, but yeah, it's not for like some sort of deep artistic reason. But also, I'm not anti-remake. I'm actually normally pretty pro-remake, but I can understand people who don't like remakes. For the record, I normally like remakes, so, but also I have terrible taste in movies, so don't take any advice from me.
But to your point, Mark, that's really funny. To your point, Mark, though, like The Thing is a great example. Like, when I first saw The Thing, I had no idea it was a remake. Like if it hadn't been for the remake of The Thing, I never would have been exposed to the original. If it hadn't been for the 90s remake of Night of the Living Dead, there's potentially people out there who never would have been exposed to the original Night of the Living Dead, Romero's original black and white film. So I don't know. I think they have a time and place. I think it depends on how you handle it. Like I personally like the modern remakes of Dawn of the Dead with the fast zombies, and I love Ving Rhames, but like I really don't like that movie. I think it does a disservice to Dawn of the Dead, but it doesn't take away, but it also may have exposed people like, oh, well, I saw this, it was okay. And then like, oh, what's this original one? And they may see that and be like, yo, this is the shit right here. This is where it's at. So I don't think it's a bad thing. I think it just has to be handled with, I think it has to be done by people who have a love for the project. A really good example of that is, and this is going to be very controversial to you guys, I know, Rob Zombie's Halloween. While it does some very different stuff, he does completely remake Halloween into that movie. I think that he went into that movie like just loving that franchise. You can tell that he cared about it. So when he remade it, he really did like put the effort in. I feel like Dawn of the Dead was a very studio film, the remake, and it just lacks some of that. I don't know. It's a really good question. I think that everyone has to kind of, I think it has a purpose, a positive and potentially negatives if handled incorrectly.
Yeah, I think there's a lot to be unpacked when it comes to remakes because you've got studios who want to make money. You've got artists who's got a vision. John was touching on a little bit, and we could have easily dumped into the cynical side of the remakes. It's just like, it's just a cash grab, right? What was RoboCop 2014 or whenever the hell that came out? Nobody even fucking talks about that one. Or the Arnold Schwarzenegger Get Your Ass to Mars remake,
Boo.
Total Recall. These were terrible remakes that nobody talks about. They're just like RoboCop, for example. That is a 5-star movie. I just rewatched it, and that movie's still incredible. And then when they brought RoboCop into Mortal Kombat 11, guess which RoboCop it is? It sure ain't that lame black plastic version from the 2014 film.
I'll have you know that Total Recall remake was actually pretty decent.
Okay.
I never saw it, but like Judge Dredd, they remade Judge Dredd, and man, I'm glad they did because that new Judge Dredd, even though I'm not a Dredd fan, like was fucking pretty hardcore and awesome. I was like, it's a really well done movie.
Yes. I wish they'd make a sequel to that so badly. That fucking Dredd movie was legit.
Yes, Carl Urban's Dredd is incredible.
It just depends on how it's handled and how it's done. And I think...
Though I don't think Dredd is now we're really getting into the weeds, but I don't think Dredd is a remake. Dredd isn't a remake of Judge Dredd. It's a different take on the source material. It's its own separate story.
Okay, yeah, you're right. That's fair. Mark, to your point, though, RoboCop definitely was a remake of the original movie.
Yeah, that was trash.
That scene where they hold that kid looking right at that dude's crotch is so weird. I just can't get over how they framed that. And it's just like, he's just, how are you doing? And the kid's like, hi. And he's like just staring right at RoboCop's crotch. And I'm like, guys, pan up or down. This is weird.
Very strange. And just to remind our listeners, I fell asleep in the remake. That's how great it was.
Totally
and
did.
I am super in love with the original film.
I forgot about that. That was awesome.
I'll just say this one last thing to kind of wrap us back into the actual movie we're talking about. I think it also has a lot to do with the viewer, the individual viewer. How close to your heart do you hold that property that's being remade? That's really going to affect your opinion on one way or another on a remake. For instance, I love RoboCop. Once I found out it was the black costumed RoboCop, I was like, I'm already out. Like, you guys have already changed too much. You're killing my baby. So, Vanderhoven, get back in here and fix this RoboCop.
Yeah, I mean, I think things could be bad remakes, but good film. That RoboCop is neither. It is a bad remake and a horrible film. What were they thinking?
Welcome back to Cop Talk.
Yeah, listener, if you take anything away from this episode, is that remake is trash. Don't watch it.
I love that. That's the one thing you should take away from this episode is the RoboCop remake was trash.
All All right, well, let's talk about what we're here to talk about. 1990s Night of the Living Dead. This one on Rotten Tomatoes is sitting at a 68% with the critics and a 68% with the audience. It's mirror imaged. 64,171 folks have weighed in on that. Now, that has to be a modern score. I can't imagine it would have been a 68 in 1990.
Yeah, didn't this do really bad?
Yeah, did you guys see the numbers on it? I think, according to Wikipedia, the budget was $4.2 million, and it made $5.8 at the box office. That is a bomb, I believe. That would qualify as a bomb.
Well, I think it bombs if you don't make your money back, right?
Well, there's that secret equation that everybody talks about, which is like you got to double the budget because of advertising campaigns and everything.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah, I think it flopped pretty much. You had already talked about Siskel and Ebert both hated it, and I'm pretty sure contemporary reviews were brutal.
So let's kick this one off. This one gets started with a very, very like we were saying, it kind of mirrors the original a lot. That we've got Barbara and was it Johnny was Mosley's character in this one?
Yep, Johnny.
They're on their way to visit their father's gravesite at the request of the mother. And it sounds like maybe the dad had passed away recently enough that the mother was sending their children off to do like a very reoccurring visit, because Johnny's just kind of like, why are we doing this? We just were here like a week ago or something like that, right? Yeah,
no, it definitely comes across that way. I don't know the exact time frame of the death and the family dynamic, but yeah, Johnny's definitely kind of like, we're doing this nonstop. And Barbara is very much I don't want to say it's obligation, but she feels a sense of duty to kind of like do these without complaining, these visits.
Now, honestly, if this were me and this were my 7th trip, would it cross your minds to maybe just tell your mother that you drove 3 hours out of the way to go say hi to dad for the 18th time and maybe just go hit the bar for an hour and then come home in the evening and be like, yep, we did it again. We said hello to father. He's good.
I don't think Barbara would let that happen. I think Barbara is a little bit too much play it by the book, honest about it, and good for her. It's your dead dad, so maybe you should do that. Yeah, no, they're definitely driving there, and you can get the dynamic that Johnny doesn't want to be there. God, every time I see Bill Moseley from like the late 80s, early 90s, all I can think is like, this is the origin for Chop Top every single time.
Well, this was post Chop Top, so he'd already done that role.
Oh, I know. I'm just saying, like, I always imagine any character that he plays with like hair and stuff is basically Chop Top's origin story. He didn't actually go to Nam. He just basically went through this. That's how he became Chop Top. Yeah. But Barbara, they get there. Barbara looks like that one female chipmunk from Alvin and the Chipmunks, the middle one with the glasses. God, I can't remember her name, but that's what she kind of looks like. She also looks like Sarah Masterson, Stuart Masterson or whatever from Some Kind of Wonderful.
Is that the vibe you were getting, man? Because I was getting a very Breakfast Club-esque, what's her name?
Molly Ringwald? I can see it with the colored hair and the kind of pinkish dress. I mean, that's some very pretty and pink kind of like visual, like, I can see you could easily attach the two. But I don't know. She seemed a little bit too square for me to basically give her that Molly Ringwald pass. But we get they're coming to get you, Barbara moment, which everyone's heard and everyone's heard referenced.
They're coming to get you, Barbara.
They're coming to get you, Barbara.
Dude, they hammer that line to death. That's the first line of the movie, and he says it like 25 more times. They really fucking hammer that line into your mind.
Yeah, well, in the original, Johnny says it quite a bit, but he doesn't say it quite as right away. They're actually like walking through he says it in the graveyard too.
Yeah, but he starts in the car. It's like, what are you even doing? How would that even come up? What context are you saying that in the car?
It was a little off-putting for sure when starting the movie off with the most iconic line of the original was like, really? Why are you doing that right now? The credits are still rolling.
Yeah, there was like nothing on the screen. It was like VO, and I was like, yo, okay. And like I thought they were going to be in the graveyard walking around. So when they like are still driving, I was like, okay, we'll see how this goes.
Yeah.
But they get to the graveyard, they get out. I mean, this movie is, I don't think we have to like go beat by beat to the whole thing, because if you're familiar with Night of the Living Dead, you know this. And if you're not, go watch the fucking movies. Either one, you'll be familiar. But this movie has really weird pacing. Like, it takes about an hour in like 5 minutes before anything major starts happening.
Yeah, at first I thought like, oh sweet, this is gonna be a really tight movie because they get to the zombie part in the first 5 minutes of the movie. They waste no time there, but then when Barbara gets to the house, they just pump the brakes. They're like, okay, we've gone way too fast. We have to fill up 90 minutes. And to your point, they're like, let's get hammering.
Well, the original movie's like that too. Like there is a lot, like they get to the house pretty quick and then there's a lot. Basically, it's like a character story at that point, which there is, but yeah, there was a lot of like hammering. So they're in the graveyard. They're going to see their dad's grave. Johnny is like, they're coming to get you, Barbara. There's one right there. And you see some guy shambling towards them. And then he like gets to them and he goes, I'm sorry. Like he's apologizing to them. And you're like, what the fuck? And he's got blood on him. And then out of nowhere, they get attacked by zombies. They try to get out of the cemetery, but Johnny's character is attacked by zombies and then gets knocked over and his head hits the side of a tombstone or a what would you call the low ones?
Yeah, his head meets the granite really hard, and that just takes him out. Yeah, it was like a tombstone or a memorial statue of some kind or something like that.
Yeah, I think they're still called tombstones.
Okay. Yeah, it's like a really low profile one towards the ground. But yeah, he hits his head on that, and it's like the dummy's head bends sideways. I was like, ugh, like it's a pretty tough hit. So of course, at that point, Barbara's freaking out. She's trying to get away. She crashes. She gets in their Mercedes and doesn't have the keys, but she puts it in reverse and goes down the hill and smashes into a tree. And that was actually Tom Savini's car.
Sorry, Tom. You're going to have to buff that out.
Exactly. Take that, Tom. They're moving the story along pretty quick. She's seeing glimpses of, dead people shambling. She gets up to this kind of country house. Would you call it a farm or is it just kind of a country house?
I think it's a farm. It had a gas pump.
I didn't see any crops, but yeah, that's a good point, John. It did have like a gas pump, which I guess maybe that was common back then. Like in the middle of nowhere, you had your own gas.
Because I imagine the gas pump was there for I'm making my own headcanon. So my headcanon was that the gas pump was there for tractors.
Oh yeah, I think so. There was a barn. I feel like it's a farm if it's got a barn.
Oh, that's a good rule. Barn equals farm.
I got a barn. You saying I live on a farm?
Yes, that is what I'm saying.
That's the rule. It's official now.
Oh, okay. You heard it here. Yeah, so I want to talk just briefly about Barbara. The actress that played Barbara, what did you think of her performance?
It was all right. Considering she's essentially the lead of the movie, sometimes I think it was not great. I'm trying to be nice. I don't want to be like, sometimes she was shit. But, compared to like Tony Todd, who I think really home run performance when they were acting in scenes together, I think she struggled a little bit to keep up personally.
I think that was the character though. Like, I think she was supposed to seem out of it and aloof, and because when she starts hitting her own later on, when she starts like doing that like oh, I've lost it, I haven't lost it, and shoots that zombie straight in the head, like I feel like around that point she's killing it. So I don't know, I think it was a character choice to kind of be kind of slow responding, kind of like out of it, but I don't know. I don't know if that's actress or if that's character, but I want to believe it's character because I think she did a really good job later on.
I feel that the remake differs in who the emphasis of the main character is versus the original. Now, you guys can correct me if I'm not right, but this movie really poses Barbara as the main lead, where I didn't get that in the original. Would you guys agree? Like, because at some point it becomes the Ben story, right?
Well, yeah, in the first one, I think Ben, the spoilers for the end, the endings are very different.
Right.
But yeah, I think Ben is always kind of lead. But I think this was a conscious choice. If I remember reading correctly, Savini really wanted Barbara to be the only survivor, to have like a female heroine that survived and became like the main badass character.
Yeah, and I'm totally okay with that decision. But I think that the actress, like kind of with John and what you're saying, Garrett, like she really comes into the performance at the end, but I think her beginning performance as the scared and the meek leaves a little to be desired, especially when she's screaming her head off when she gets to the farmhouse. Some of that stuff was just not believable. She'd be screaming and then look the other direction, and I actually laughed at it. I was like, That reminds me of Space Mutiny level screaming and then jumping out of the Enforcer. You know what I'm saying? Like some of that. It wasn't nearly as bad as Space Mutiny, but it gave me wafts of that kind of style of acting. I was like, oh man, you could have done a little bit better, Barbara.
Yeah, I can see kind of that. I guess what like seemed like when she wasn't screaming and acting scared, she seemed like she had her shit together to like flip back and forth between those so fast. So maybe that's what you were feeling.
Yeah, and again, I don't think she was terrible, but she was leaving a little to be desired, especially when she ends up being the main lead of this film, when Tony Todd, as John said, is just delivering one of his best performances, I think.
Yeah, I mean, this is like Candyman level performance for Tony Todd. This is not. This is really good.
I'm gonna say this is even better than Candyman, honestly. Like as far as like his performance, I really thought he did an amazing job in this, especially at the end when he's kind of like realizing the humor of everything.
Yeah.
Oh, that desperate humor.
That's true.
Oh man, that was such a great moment.
Yeah, this is better than Candyman. I think it's because he's allowed to do more with this character, right? He's got a wider range of emotion than the Candyman does.
Well, this is one of those movies that I'm sure actors would love to grab because, I mean, everyone has their own long-ass monologue scene. Like, everyone gets their own, except for, like, Judy Ray Allen or whatever. I don't know what her name is. Everyone gets their, like, nice little monologue, which I thought was, like, some of them are much better than others, but I don't know. I thought everyone did a good job.
And I think, and here's a very hot take, I think, in later movies, I feel like Tony Todd plays a caricature of himself. And seeing him in this movie is like, oh yeah, he was really fucking good as an actor before he, I guess, maybe just stopped taking himself seriously. Because in his latest run of movies, y'all, he is not putting this kind of work in.
Do you think he's Nick Cage in it? He's just kind of playing himself as the character?
I do. I definitely think that. I think it started in Final Destination, and it has just gotten progressively worse.
I wonder if it's because it's what it became expected of Tony Todd to be this caricature. You know what I mean? Maybe he hasn't gotten the roles that he's been able to spread his legs and really be creative like he was in this film.
True. That's very possible for sure. Maybe he got typecasted after Candyman into this brooding, in the shadows dark figure, whereas here he's playing much more your normal, I mean, extraordinary in his leadership capability, like he's just taking charge of the situation, but he's really just an average guy in the grand scheme of things. You know, he's not mystical or anything, which seems to be his MO later.
Yeah, I mean, and I love his intro too, where he just rolls up in that Jeep, because like we get Barbara, who starts going through the house, not sure what's going on, kind of freaking out, and then she sees like Thing from the Addams Family crawl over the ledge. Basically, a severed hand falls off down at her, and then she falls down from it, which I don't know. Don't get me wrong. I've been hit by things, and things have fallen out of trees and hit me and stuff like that, and I've never been so startled I have to fall over. I mean, I'm quick to jump, but I don't know. And then the giant bald-headed overall zombie falls down. And man, when he falls, I don't know if that was a fake or that was a stuntman, but man, he falls face first on that ground, and man, it looks like it hurts. So she moves out of the way, and then she kind of freaks out, and she runs back outside after seeing some zombies. And then that's when Tony Todd rolls up in this truck, and he just is barreling down this road, and there's a zombie shambling through the road, and he just hits it full on. Pulls up to the house, gets out with a crowbar, which kind of looks like a hook on the end of his hand. Candyman reference, maybe.
It'd have to be proto, because this is pre-Candyman, so it's alluding to the coming of the Candyman.
The seeds were planted at this time.
Right.
I'm making this all up, of course. I don't know if that's actually true, but I'm going to assume that's what it was.
We're making our own truths.
Yeah, it's called headcanon, y'all, so it's your headcanon.
We'll go back to our Cameo plan where we just get to say stuff on Cameo and then make it officially like canon.
Boom.
That's right.
So that's when he gets introduced to Barbara, and he just comes on the scene, like you said, John. Like, it's basically saying he has like great leadership skills out the gate. I don't know. I don't know if I keep it together that well during something like this.
Well, I hope that I would do a better job than Barbara does, because Barbara is just catatonic. She can't even speak at this point. And like you said, she lost her balance and fell backwards. It's like she is not with it. I don't think I would ever be in this state of not being able to respond to somebody. Like Tony Todd's looking at her, Ben, he's like, listen, do you live here?
Anyone else inside? Huh? You got any shotguns in there? Hunting rifle, anything?
I don't know. I don't.
Hey, come on! Come on! Come on! Come on! Come on!
Recognize that someone's speaking to you, and let's get it together. It's surprising to see someone that can be that oblivious to what's going around her turn into a survivor at the end of this movie.
Yeah, no, it's a weird choice, and that's definitely the character's persona. Like, she was supposed to be like that, but it's so hard for me to believe characters like that, because I don't know if it's just like something that people I hang out with, or just I don't see anybody I know who would behave like that. I can't imagine basically shutting down to the point where I can't respond to someone who's literally trying to help me.
It feels like Barbara's character transition isn't earned, though, Mark. I really do agree with you. It's so hard because it's one day, it's a couple of hours, and she goes from like shell-shocked, can't talk, to Rambo.
Yeah, agreed.
They drew first blood.
It's hard to buy.
Yeah, the passage of time doesn't quite add up to that growth. I do want to call out the effects on this. I think all the zombie effects, all the practical makeup, the blood and gore and everything are absolutely great in this. I think, I wonder, how much input did Savini have? Does anybody know if he got somebody else to do it?
Oh, I think it was his team. I think, didn't he have he had a team at that point, right? Didn't he have like the Savini group that he worked with or whatever?
Yeah, probably. I imagine that's true.
That's definitely Savini's, either his team or him personally. But man, some of the gore effects. And you know what's weird though? Compared to what we saw in like Day of the Dead and things like that, we didn't see that level of gore in this movie, but we did see some very disturbing imagery. Like the zombies really looked fucked up.
Yeah, they do. They were pretty disturbing to look at. So once they get inside the house, they're assessing the situation, and this is one of those zombie movies that, it's taking itself as if the idea of the zombie had never existed before, not even in the mind of pop culture, because they're like, what's going on? What's wrong with all those guys? And everybody's like, I have no idea, Whereas some zombie movies are like, it's zombies, it's finally happened. Can you believe it? How does that affect your viewing when a movie wants you to think that zombies just never existed as a thought?
In 1989, a movie set in 1989, I can buy it. All right, fine. Zombies haven't hit the zeitgeist like they did in 2000 till now, essentially. But any movie that's supposedly set in the current day and everyone's like, zombies, never heard of them, immediately takes me out. I'm like, that is ridiculous. Anything that's supposedly set in present time, I do not buy it. The 80s, all right. Zombies, I mean, we assume these are country folk. They live in a small town. They're on a farm based on the barn. Maybe they aren't plugged into horror, so I can kind of get that. Yeah, all right, they're unfamiliar with zombies.
Yeah, that's fair. I kind of expect the idea of zombie to be in my modern zombie movies' heads. But again, this one was 20 years later after the first original zombie movie, but maybe because it's a remake of the original modern zombie movie, we got to let that go too, right?
Yeah, I think you're right about that. But definitely to John's point, though, I don't think we had the sheer saturation of zombies involved in culture that we do now. So yeah, the idea that people were like, what the hell is this? There's no way it could be that, I still buy that. And I think that also comes down to the script and the actors, because I could easily see watching a movie that takes place in 2020 where someone's like, what the fuck is this? Oh my God, I think they're dead. No way. What, but it has to be sold really well. And it's a much harder sell when something's so commonplace in pop culture and, society. So, I think all sides of that are accurate, but I'm with John. I'm with Team John on this one. I think it's much harder to do that nowadays without being like, get the fuck out of here.
What is a devil? I've never heard of this creation. Tell me more.
You know what's weird? People probably know about zombies more than they know about nuclear bombs nowadays. If you think about that, like kids and stuff like that, they probably are more familiar with a zombie apocalypse than a nuclear holocaust.
Yeah, you're right.
That's pretty fucked up when you think about it.
Yeah, people know more about a fictitious potential apocalyptic event versus one that we've already unleashed on the planet.
So on that note, let's get back to zombies.
Sure. John, at this point in the film, we're just introduced to all the rest of the characters throughout, right? They're all hiding out in the basement.
Yeah.
Who are these characters that we meet at this point?
We meet the Cooper family, Harry Cooper, the villain of this film, Helen Cooper, very nice lady, and their daughter Sarah, who was ill, quote unquote ill. Turns out she was bitten by a zombie, and they are hiding that fact. These people are zombie bite hiders. And we meet Judy Rose, as Garrett has mentioned, and Tom, who I believe are the OG owners, or related to the OG owners of the house.
Yeah, now if they'd seen any zombie movies before this, they would have just capped Sarah immediately because they know she was going to turn.
True.
But again, they don't know what's happening exactly, so that's not something that would make sense in this context of the film.
That's the one thing in zombie films nowadays. Like you said, it's hard for me, like you guys, to imagine people not knowing what a zombie is. It's harder for me to imagine them not going like, oh, your daughter's sick? She's probably fucked up by whatever's going on. Like the people who dismiss that stuff, that's much harder for me to accept in a movie than it is that they don't know what a zombie is.
Yeah, we need to move past as a society where we have the character that goes, don't shoot my dad. He's going to be okay later. And everybody else going, he's going to be a zombie. How do you not understand this at this point?
Get a hug in now because you fucked later.
Pre-coronavirus, I would have said, yeah, you're totally right.
Right.
Nowadays, though, after seeing how we've reacted to a real-life plague, I totally believe there would be people who don't believe it or who are bit and don't care or hide it. Just go see how people are reacting to the minorest of inconvenience of having to wear a mask. People would totally be like, oh, I'll be fine. Everything's fine. This is all a lie. I totally buy that now. Unfortunately.
Jeez, thanks, John. Thanks for that reality reminder there. Gee, you were fucking right, though, man. Like, people are inconvenienced by this shit. I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm not like making light of it because it's fucking crazy and people are dying by the mass amounts.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's people who are just inconvenienced by fucking wearing a minor piece of cloth, you know, and it's like, dude, yeah, we're fucked. Someone's hiding a bite. We're all screwed.
Like, wear a mask and wash your hands, and people are like, this is an outrageous affront to me as a human being. So there's no way we're going to survive a zombie apocalypse.
Yeah.
It's my freedom to live with the zombie curse that I personally chose to get.
Yeah, it's kind of appalling, and it sucks. Just wondering, like, oh, how do people carry these viruses back into a country of people not affected? Well, it's that mentality of like, well, whatever. I gotta get home. I got a 8 p.m. meeting on Tuesday. I can't miss it. I don't care if I'm infected with the 0T virus or whatever. You know, they don't give a shit.
That's the problem with Raccoon City.
Yeah, just give them some hydroxychloroquine. They'll be fine.
Eat it by the handful.
God, people are dumb.
So we're introduced to a power struggle. We've got our alpha dogs fighting. Harry Cooper wants everybody to go downstairs. Ben is upstairs saying, no way, Jose, we're going to be safer up here. Why would we want to cage ourselves in if this shit gets too bad? Why would we want to have no escape? I'm going to side on Ben's side of things at that point. I mean, why would you want to put yourself in a position to just get boxed in and killed? But Harry's not listening to logic at this point. I guess he's got his health of his daughter on his mind. But that, again, I don't understand why he can't see the reasoning behind what Ben is saying.
Yeah, it's a very dumb argument because they're not arguing about different things. If Harry helps defend the outer ring of the house, that makes the basement more secure. Like, I don't understand his point at all. It's defense in depth, right? I mean, start in the outer ring and then work your way in, and then, yeah, maybe you have a last stand place. But I don't understand why he thinks, oh no, the basement's the safe place, because it's just one door. It's very stupid.
Yeah, you think he'd want to fortify his position on all fronts. Like,
right.
Yeah, if they break the outer ring, you're more vulnerable.
You would think, but he's 3 Budweisers into his cellar vacation, so what can you do?
Yeah, and to make sure we extra despise him, he's also a wife beater and just an all-around dick.
Yeah, his wife is like, we should help them because, more people can help us out. We should and he's like, why I yada? And then he like kind of slaps her when she's like, I'm going to open the door and go help him. He's like, no, you're not. Yeah, he just, right out the gate, we know we're not supposed to like this guy. But there is a point later on, though, when he goes and gets that TV and he's bringing it downstairs. Do you guys really think he was trying to take that to the cellar?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay. All right. I was curious because
100%. I think he was all in it for himself only. He didn't give a shit about anybody else's survival. He wanted still to be able to pipe that news in. But once Ben caught him taking the TV down, he came up with the excuses. I was just bringing it down so everybody could watch it. It's like, no, you weren't, dude. Nice try.
Well, he says, he's like, I wasn't taking it to the basement. You can't get any reception down there. I wouldn't, we couldn't have been able to watch it anyway in the cellar. So like, I was just bringing it down here.
But I think that's a lie because they get radio reception in the cellar, as we see later.
Do we need to get into the science of radio versus television waves?
Oh, I think if you could get radio waves, you could at least get some basic TV waves. Also, Harry's just a dick. He's just taking the TV so other people can't have it. So that they'd have to beg him for the TV. That's his whole thing. The whole movie, he's like, they're going to come beg me for help, and they're going to be asking to come in here, and we're going to say no. He's, from Watchmen.
It's a power play.
Yeah, it's exactly what it is. He's not willing to help unless it's his plan. He's the one calling the shots. He's the one in charge of the survival mission. And because he got outvoted by everybody who's staying upstairs, he's not going to have any part of it. He's going to let everybody else do the work, and he's going to do nothing but stand around and drink that Budweiser. To Ben's discredit, though, I feel that there was a couple options that Ben should have made some different decisions here, too.
Oh, without a doubt.
So the plan is to board up all the windows. If you haven't got that yet, they board up the windows for 32 hours of the movie. They're going to try to find some keys and get this truck gassed up so everybody can make a run for it to another location. But currently they're stuck. They have no way to get out of here. As we mentioned, these zombies are the slow-moving variety. There's multiple opportunities for these survivors to get out there and do what they need to do before all the horde of them start showing up. That's part of my issue with Ben's leadership here is it would have made way more sense to go get that gas when there was like one or two outside rather than waiting till nighttime when all of them show up.
And Barbara makes that point like a couple times. She's like, look, they're slow moving. We can literally walk past them now while there's only like 3 or 4 of them. Like you can tell he's listening to her, but like I don't think he's hearing her, but he's not listening to her. And because he's like, yeah, but they get like 5 or 6 of them and we're in trouble, or like, and it's like, but no, like Barbara calls it. She's like, if we go now to get that gas, there's only a few of them. We can get past them with a gun. And then Ben's like, nope, seen that happen. Not going to risk it. He kind of just completely shuts it down. And then much later, it's far worse situation.
They don't even try the Shaun of the Dead defense of just blending in.
Well, this was 1990, man.
Yeah. And because it was 1990, this movie seems to have a very current modern theme of, a lot of the movies being made now kind of have this, and I hate to use the term because I don't mean it negatively, but a feminist agenda or the idea that, men aren't willing to listen to women, that a lot of movies are really hammering home in a lot of these more modern films. This was doing it 30 years ago, and I think it does a really good job. It made its point across, at least to me, when so many movies just really have to prop that idea out in front, where it's more important that you're getting that idea at the cost of maybe good writing. You know what I mean? This one had it baked in, and it was doing it 30 years before some of these more modern movies are trying to get that message out.
Well, and I think that's one of the brilliances of Night of the Living Dead is that, even back in the original, it really was more of a character study. It was much more a look at humans as opposed to the zombies, which I think a lot of modern zombie movies get wrong.
I don't know. I feel like modern zombie movies have beat that fucking point to death. We're the real monster. See 8 seasons of Walking Dead or whatever.
But it's not so much the we're the monsters. That stuff is. I'm not talking about like the subtle intricacies of like Mark says, people just not like willing to. Like they play their role, they play their part, and they don't really get the nuance of like all it took was listening to one thing, or just really kind of, yeah, you're right. I mean, definitely like there are exceptions, of course, 28 Days Later, Walking Dead, things like that. I mean, the Walking Dead comics are fucking fantastic for that reason. But there's also a lot of movies that just rely on the fact that like, oh, the zombies are coming. Like, oh, we have to run and play our stereotypes. And Night of the Living Dead really, while it has those, it was kind of subtle and nuanced in the way it did it originally. Now, this one has some of that, but there are also some played up bits. But I don't know. I maybe it's because it was the first time I ever really experienced that in a horror film. That was like so great. I was like, wow.
Yeah, I don't know. There's a lot of yelling in this film, this particular version anyway. So I definitely wouldn't call it subtle, but I do get what you're saying. But man, the back half of this movie is just filled with people yelling at one another.
Yeah, the middle half of this movie is nothing but hammering. The back half is nothing but yelling.
Well, let's get to the back half now. I think we're about there. They get the house all boarded up, and then nighttime hits. All the zombies are starting to come around. Oh, one of the other things, the ability to not want to look for the keys because they are quote unquote could be anywhere. Are you kidding me? Look for the goddamn keys. There's 9 of you. Somebody go find these fucking keys.
Yeah, what the fuck?
Well, Ben said, keep your eye open for any keys that might be, we might need. He says that like as they're boarding up the place, but I don't know. Who was it that decided that they shouldn't look for keys?
It's like a group decision. And then for 1 second, Helen goes to look for the keys, but all she does is go upstairs and ask, has anyone seen the keys? It was the most half-assed look. I was like, wait, is that what you're doing right now? And then like a zombie attack happens and it distracts her. But like that was her great idea, was to go ask them if they've seen the fucking keys. Like, lady, if they'd seen the keys, they wouldn't still be here.
Yeah, to the viewer, if you don't know what we're talking about, they're trying to find this gas pump key. The gas pump is apparently locked down across the farmyard, and they got to have these keys to open it up and then fill up the truck so they can get the hell out of there. Now, it seems to me if that is such an essential part of the plan, we should stop just waving our hands going, the keys could be anywhere. Like, no, that should be priority 1, if not priority 2 after the windows. Get the goddamn keys.
Yeah. Also, undoubtedly, that is just a rubber hose. They could cut it off of the handle. Would it be perfect? No. But could you shove it in a gas tank and get some gas? Yes. You don't need the keys. Just damage the damn pump. I doubt that gas tank had a steel reinforced hose going from the tank to the pump.
Don't you have to pull the handle to make it like actually flow out the hose? Doesn't it like then cause the suction to open?
No, it's like when you siphon gas. This is going to sound terrible, but you got to suck on the hose some to get it running. Yeah. But once you do that, then you just put it in there.
So, John, when you're not sucking on the hose, though, isn't the gas just always wanting to like come out, though? Like, isn't it like if you like cut the hose, wouldn't gas just start spraying everywhere?
Yeah, it would start spraying everywhere for sure. So you'd want to shove it in the gas tank as fast as you can so it sprays in the gas tank.
Okay, I didn't know we were going to get hung up on the intricacies of a gas pump mechanism, but here's what I think is going on. As that I have experience working at a gas station, there's the handle you have to lift first that allows the pump to have access to the tank well underneath of gas. The lock was probably on that handle, John. So don't think of the handle like the pump side of it. It's the lever that allows the gas to come out of the ground. That was probably the lock that was locked down.
Okay.
So people can't steal your gas.
Got it. I'm going to go with that because that makes a lot of sense, Mark. Good job. New headcanon.
I'm here to help your headcanon. Just ask.
So, yes, their plan is to take Ben's truck, get gas at the gas pump, but there is a lock, so they're going to go get it. Now, they divvy up at this point, which I don't know. I personally didn't like the group the choices they made for this, but they send Ruby Rose, Tom, and then Ben out to go get gas in the truck. Now, I don't know about you, but I don't take well, they're using the torch to keep the zombies away. I was going to say, I would never take a torch near a fucking gas tank ever. But, desperate times and all. And then inside the house is the Coopers and Barbara. Oh, man, this is about an hour and 5 minutes in it. This is where everything kind of ratchets up and just does not slow down. They go out to the pump. Ruby is driving way too fast, and Ben just flies off the back of the truck. And as someone who's been thrown out of the back of a truck before, man, that hurts. So he's like, Tom's yelling, he's like, you knocked Ben off, you got to stop. And they get to the pump, And then how does it catch on fire? Oh, he shoots it. Like he can't find the key.
Yeah, they have the wrong keys. So they found keys on a dead body, and they're like, "Oh, is that your uncle?" Because the owner of the house is Tom, right? Tom's uncle. They're like, "Yeah." So they find it. They find a set of keys. They get to the gas pump, and it's the wrong key. So they can't unlock the gas pump. So then Tom, in all of his brilliance, shoots the pump, and like Mark said, gas starts spraying everywhere. Gets on the torch, and in a Michael Bay-like explosion, just blows the whole fucking car up. It is crazy.
Yeah, the gas pump, and the car just fucking go up massive. Now, was that a shotgun or a rifle that he shot it with?
Oh, it might have been a rifle. I'm not a gun guy.
Yeah, I'm not either. But like, I was looking at it, I was like, if that was a shotgun, A, you're a fucking idiot. I was like, 2, if it's a rifle, you're a fucking idiot. But okay, yeah. So that goes up. Ben's fortunately far enough away. He's like, oh no, Mamma Mia.
New thing to get Tony Todd to say on Cameo. It's a me, Mario, Mamma Mia. How much would he charge for that?
That'd be amazing.
So he runs back to the house, and inside, at this point, zombies are trying to get through, and they have kind of busted through and grabbed Barbara. And Cooper, at this point, just refuses to help her, right? She's like getting attacked.
He's such a dick. Well, they're having a fight about the rifle. She's dying, and he's like, give me that gun. I want the gun. He's like way more focused on getting the gun than helping Barbara at all.
That's right. Cooper wants the gun because that puts him in charge of the power dynamic, and then he can call the shots, which... God, he's a fucking idiot. At this point, Tony Todd comes back to the house, and we're burning through a lot of stuff. There's a lot of amazing monologues and character interactions that really make this movie just brilliant. Tony Todd runs in, sees this, helps out Barbara. Ben and Cooper start getting in a fight.
Oh yeah, that's when Sarah comes, and we see that Cooper's daughter is now a zombie. And Ben and Barbara are like, dude, you got to do it. You got to kill her. And Cooper's like, no, I can't.
I really respected the fact that they were like, dude, we don't want to kill your daughter. Like, we're giving you the opportunity to do this. Like, no one wants to have to do that. But at the same time, like, at least they didn't just straight up cap her. They're kind of like, this is your thing.
Yeah. And then Sarah kills Helen, bites her. Helen's just screaming, like, my daughter, gets totally bit, dead. Off she goes. Sarah runs upstairs. Ben is like, fine, I'll take care of this. And this is where they get into like a Wild West shootout.
Yeah, because Cooper won't shoot his daughter Sarah, who's clearly a zombie, who's heading right for Ben and Barbara on the ground. And Ben's like, dude, you gotta do it. You gotta do it. And then he pulls out a gun to do it himself so they don't get bitten by a zombie. And Cooper shoots fucking Ben right through the shoulder. Barbara starts screaming, which I completely understand. I don't blame her for that at all. Tony Todd's like firing back and then hits Cooper on the stairs.
Cooper runs upstairs.
He retreats to the attic. Ben goes into the cellar. Barbara shoots Sarah and leaves. This is where she's like, all right, fine. I will just go back to plan A that I had 3 hours ago, which is just walk to the city. Ben goes, so he's shot now. He's in the basement and he's like listening to the radio or whatever. And they're like, oh, our safety stations have been overrun, don't go there. And then he finds the gas key in the cellar where he had been fighting to not go the whole time. Dun dun dun.
I think Tony Todd deserves crazy accolades for this moment. He gets down in the cellar and he locks it up, and he kind of like starts chuckling to himself because he realizes the irony of now he's locked in this cellar, which is where he didn't want to be. And as he's sitting there listening to all this stuff play out over the radio, he looks up and sees the key that's labeled super clearly gas pump. So yeah, if they had spent 3 seconds looking for keys in any of the rooms, they would have found this gas pump key.
You know who I blame for all this? Helen. She was going to look for the gas pump key, didn't even start looking in the room she was in. Her great idea, go upstairs, ask people, got Ben killed. Got everybody killed.
Fucking Helen, man. God damn it, Helen.
Yeah, fucking Helen, dude.
Well, let's blame it on Cooper too. It's Harry and Helen. They both suck. The key was right there, clearly labeled, ready to go. Not only does Ben find the gas key, he finds a zombified Helen. She's down there with him.
Yeah, and then we cut away. We don't see any more from Ben. Barbara walking through the field, just slowly like sidestepping zombies, like no problem. Like it's not even an effort. Like she's just like graceful. Like, you know, like she's like a fucking Olympic ice skater. She's just all smooth, just going right past him, shooting the one she's got to shoot, walking away.
She totally called it. She's like, we don't even have to walk fast.
Yeah.
She's just like, dude, we just have to walk, not even at a fast speed, and they can't catch us. And Ben, because he doesn't take any advice from anybody, is like, that is the craziest idea I have ever heard. Turns out Barbara was right the whole time.
Girl, you tripping.
And this is definitely the part of the movie where it starts skewing its own path, right? So at this point, we've left the original behind, and this movie's doing its own thing.
Well, sort of. It starts to deviate, but yes, this is about where it starts like slowly branching apart.
In the original, Ben is Barbara. He's the one who makes it out, and then, I mean, spoiler for a 50-plus-year-old movie, he gets shot from the distance by the hillbillies that Barbara's about to run into. And it's an open-ended question if they shot him because he was black or, you know, they thought he was a zombie. They just shoot first and ask questions later. That was like the big racial thing of the first movie, which this movie sidesteps to go for the more, like you said, Mark, feminist angle, which I think works really well.
Yeah, that's one of the things that like always like weirded me out, and like I think that really stuck with me when I was like younger, is when I first saw it, like because Ben survives by going to the cellar, like the thing he didn't want to do, and then he comes out and there's like roving bands of like, you know, militia or just, you know, posses or whatever, and that's when you were supposed to see the scene of them like hanging zombies in the tree. And then he emerges from the house, and then, yeah, they're like over there. And then like they look, and then you hear gunshots. And so then they basically have like an interview where they're like, you know, like, hey, you know, what's going on? They're like, oh, yeah, well, they're dead. They're all messed up, which is like my favorite line from this movie. And that's the original. And then the sequel, Barbara ends up like falling onto a truck bed full of dead zombies. And then she gets confronted by a bunch of dudes. And I'm going to be honest, I was really worried this was going to get super rapey at this point in the movie.
Yeah, me too,
agreed.
Dude. They were looking at her so weird.
I really thought that's where the movie was going too. I was like, oh, she's going to have to fight her way off of these rapey good old boys. And I was like, oh man, movie, I don't know if I'm ready for that.
Yeah, I was like, I've been through enough. I do not need to see her like survive all this just to basically have a bunch of dudes like go at it. I was like, oh God, please no. But she like elbows the guy who's holding her, and then they're kind of like, they kind of respect it. They're like, all right, cool, you're alive, you know, let's go. And they take her back to I want to call it like kind of a makeshift camp where there's a bunch of people, you know, kind of like, you know, good old boy, militia people, bikers. And they have set up like, it's just kind of like fucking Lord of the Flies type like law there.
It's like a fair. It's like the state fair for zombies. There's all kinds of zombie games. People are hanging from trees, and you can do target practice. They have zombies fighting each other. I wouldn't be surprised if off camera they had zombie races, zombie, you know, rides. They had really turned this into a whole thing.
Zombie Chopped, you know, with Alton Brown. I mean, you name it. I mean,
guess the weight of the zombie.
Yeah, exactly. They put a bunch of zombies in a jar, and you had to guess how many they were in the jar. Dude, it was
that's messed up. But yeah, so she rolls up on this camp, and that's when we get the interview with the guy. I was like, oh yeah, we've been doing this, you know, for about a week now, you know, like, yeah, they're dead, they're all messed up. So I was so glad they kept that line in there. And then she's looking around, and it seems like she's checked out, like oh my God, she may have finally lost it, you know. But then she makes a comment, the social commentary of like, they're us and we're them. Basically meaning we're just as bad as they are, and they're just as bad as we are, you know, in all aspects. And someone's like, what'd you say? And she's like, nothing. They take her on a raiding party to go back to the house. Like she hears someone saying they found a house, and they go back to that house, and they go inside, and out of the basement comes Ben, fully zombified. And one of the dudes from the party, like, boom, shoots him. And it's weird, though, because she doesn't really react.
She's stone cold about it. I mean, I think, like, it must be eating away at her, kind of based on her next action. But face-wise and exterior, yeah, stone cold, man.
I think the reality of what's going on is kind of set in, and you know, this is the new norm, right? This is she's gone through such an emotional and character change at this point from the beginning to here. This is just how you have to adapt to survive.
So after poor Ben gets shot, Harry comes down from the attic and sees this party and runs right into Barbara, who just straight shoots him right in the head. And he is not a zombie. Harry managed to somehow survive all of this. So she just killed person Harry, not zombie Harry, which is a real bummer.
Human Harry.
Yeah, human Harry, person Harry. She kills human Harry, and then she just turns and is like, hey, we have another one for the fire. And that's it. She is cold-blooded, man.
What's crazy about that too is the two guys that like come to see, like, when she shoots, they come like, look, they see who she shot, and then they look at each other like, that's not a zombie. Like, they kind of look at like each other like, oh shit, you know, I think she just killed a dude. Which kind of goes into her demeanor, because when she's at that camp earlier watching all the people like just be monsters about everything, she's smiling and laughing, and then when people are looking at her, and then when they like look away, she like goes back to like being like sad and conflicted. So it's like, it's really weird, because before that she's kind of like, oh, kind of faking it to make it, and here it's almost like at that moment it's the full switch to this is the new norm for her, which is really fucking crazy.
Let's put yourself in Harry Cooper's shoes for a moment. You were just a giant dickhead for the last, I don't know, 82 hours during the whole building and putting the boards on the windows scene. You really expect Barbara not to shoot you in the head? Because when he came downstairs, he rounded the corner and he's like, oh, great, you came back for me. And then she just blasts him in the brain. I was like, dude, if I saw somebody else who was getting attacked by zombies through a window and I didn't help her and I went and grabbed her gun and then I fired several rounds at her, I would run the other direction. I'd be like, oh, God, she's back. I'm fucking out of here. You know what I mean?
Yeah, he's very clueless. He is through and through. He's like a classic, I think, narcissist. He only thinks about himself and how everything in the universe must be for his benefit. And so, yeah, when he saw Barbara, he was like, sweet, you know, rescue party. Barbara was like, sweet, I get a chance for some of that awesome revenge. And does not hesitate, man. It's awesome.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, I feel like she also kind of has that, like, she blames Cooper for that whole situation too.
Definitely. I think she thinks it's his fault that Ben is the zombie, which it is, because he shot him.
Yeah, he did shoot Ben. So, like, to be fair, but at the same time, it's like, I think she also has this like weird kind of detachment from the situation of like kind of like you guys mentioned earlier, like, if we had just done what I said, we probably could have fucking avoided this.
You think a narcissist of his level would have some sort of self-preservation instinct? Barbara is the opposite of self-preservation, and he should have known that immediately.
Yeah, the ending of this one, I mean, I definitely, the ambiguity and like the kind of racial like aspect of the first one was a very unique, interesting kind of like moral, like, holy shit, you know, kind of thing. I think this ending, though, is much more impactful. I mean, you definitely lose some of the racial aspect of it, which is, you know, was very important at the time. But in this one, I think like watching her really kind of like live out this whole like, holy shit, you know, like it's fucking chaos and that's just the way it is. And like really kind of like almost come to her own of like, well, I made it because I wasn't these assholes, you know, is just really, I don't know. It fills me with that same sense of like uneasy kind of like, I'm not sure what it makes me feel like I feel like when I watch a Spike Lee film, like I'm just not sure what I'm supposed to feel right now. You know?
Yeah, no, that definitely makes sense.
So that's it. That's Night of the Living Dead, 1990.
I think if this film had played itself completely straight and just copied the original beat for beat all the way through, we wouldn't even be talking about this movie right now. I think it would fall in line of something like, in my opinion, like the Freddy Krueger remake, where that one was just beat for beat the original Wes Craven film. Because this one tried to do something different at the end, I think it stands itself out from a lot of those other lackluster remakes.
Yeah, that's definitely, you guys definitely kind of like stated how you felt about it, but you know, would you guys recommend it?
I think so. I think I would recommend it if for not alone just Tony Todd's performance in this one. I think makes this worthwhile.
Yes, I'd agree with that. If you haven't seen it, you definitely should. And I should, I guess, clarify my opening statement in where I said I wouldn't watch this movie again. I wouldn't like put it on and watch it, but if someone were like, hey, do you want to watch this? Or if someone hadn't seen it and was like, hey, do you want to watch this with me? I would watch it in that context. It's not like unwatchable or anything. I just don't see myself ever thinking like, man, I could really watch the 1990 Night of the Living Dead remake. Like, I don't think it's an idea that'll ever pop into my head, to be honest.
That's fair. Again, this is one of those movies I own, and when I feel like watching an old school zombie movie, my go-to zombie movie, of course, is 28 Days Later. But like, if I want to watch an old school zombie flick, it's usually Night of the Living Dead. And I gotta be honest, like, I go between which one I put on. You know, sometimes I'll put on the old, black and white one, and sometimes I'll put on this 1990s one. And I think that helps me not get burnt out on one or the other. But I think that also works because they are so similar that I don't feel like I'm missing out, or I feel like I have to watch the other movie,
Yeah, that makes sense. And I think it's really going to come down to the individual viewer's exhaustion level of the zombie genre. I think John's not going to throw this one on, or any other zombie movie for that matter, because we're just kind of tired of the genre as a whole. Who's to say in 10 years' time, maybe there won't be the exhaustion that we have now, and they'd be like, man, what is one of the good zombie films? I bet somebody is going to say the remake Night of the Living Dead. I think that will come up in conversation, because there's a lot of bad zombie films. I think this is one of the better ones.
I'd agree with that.
It'll be interesting to see where in time, because I mean, this film does feel really forgotten, but no one really references this 90s remake, and I wonder if that's just because they're not aware of it, or if it's because it really is, in some people's minds, the inferior of the two. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see how this movie ages. There's a lot here that amplifies the original, and there's a lot here that also kind of like is left out of the original. But again, I think that's because it's very much a product of its time.
I think this one may even now be starting to be turning around in the public consciousness. Back then they didn't like it. I think people are starting to come around to it, and I think that's only going to grow as time goes on. So really, listener, what you need to take away from this episode, if you're going to remember anything that the GraveTalk has ever said over our 2.5 years of existence in this podcast realm, is that A, that RoboCop 2014 remake is a piece of shit. Don't you ever watch it. And 2, don't shoot a gas tank with a shotgun or a rifle, would you please?
And of the two, if you only want one takeaway, it's that RoboCop is a piece of shit.
Yeah, that's the information that's going to save your life.
Wow. Okay, you've learned so much with us today.
Well, thanks for joining us again for another episode. If you want more GraveTalk content, you can find more at www.thegravetalk.com. Have you seen this movie? Where does it rank among your zombie films? Do you like the original more than this remake? Let us know on our social media. You can find us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. We love hearing from you guys. What's next? What are we doing? Frighteners? Is that correct?
I believe Frighteners is next, yes.
Okay, the Michael J. Fox, the Michael J.
Fox, not Gary Busey, Jake Busey horror comedy.
Okay, well, teaser for you guys. I've never actually seen this movie all the way through. I've only seen like 10 minutes of it. So, okay, well, thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time.